We've got about 84 people here live just on LinkedIn, and I know we're going out on multiple platforms, but we got over 200 people registered for today's training. So clearly it's a hot topic, and I'm excited to get into it. Direct awards or sole source contracts, they just mean small businesses win contracts without any competition from the other 350,000 active government contractors. And that's huge, right? Being able to get a direct award. Just understand the numbers though, right? It's really important to put this in perspective. Last year, so FY 2023 is the last year we have a full amount of information for, HubZone companies got 119 sole source contracts. So out of the 4,000 plus, 119 got sole source contracts. Women-owned small business, tens of thousands of women-owned small businesses, right? Women-owned small businesses got 172 sole source or direct award contracts, no competition. SDVOs, service disabled veteran-owned small businesses, they got 795. So they got a lot more than HubZones and women-owned small businesses, but there's like 20,000 plus SDVOs out there, 795 direct awards or sole source contracts. 8A, which we're talking about primarily today, got 5,528 sole source contracts. And I'll show you how I find this data a little later in the training, but basically you go to USA Spending and find the same information. But 8A small businesses got 5,528 sole source contracts, direct award contracts. Most of it happened in September 2023, so the last month of last fiscal year. And this is really important to understand the numbers. I actually had somebody reach out to me before today's training. This morning they were asking, hey, you're talking about 8A sole source or direct award, but what about HubZone, et cetera? And what I said was, first off, no, there's not a lot of sole sources, so that's an unfortunate thing. But the process to get it is, for the most part, the same. There are a couple of advantages that an 8A small business has over other businesses, but the idea of the process is in there. And so what I teach today is something you can kind of turn from 8A to HubZone, for example. Direct award opportunities, these sole source contracts, they're definitely out there. And 8A small businesses should absolutely expect to win business in the last 3 months of a fiscal year. But you have to do work, right? You can't just be an 8A or be a company and sit there and expect to get it. It takes process and it takes persistence for you to be able to win these contracts. And that's what we're going to talk about today. 8A sole source contracts in the federal government world, whether you're going to sit there and go after these contracts yourself as the prime 8A firm, or if you're in or you see opportunities, you can bring those opportunities to an 8A firm. And I do this a lot with my customers, where one company will bring it to another company that's an 8A, they'll team together and they'll go after it. And they'll try to push for a sole source. Literally, I think today or tomorrow, one of my customers is getting an announcement for one of these sole source contracts. And it pretty much is this process I'm going to talk to you about. Okay, so today's training, I'm going to cover down in the next 25 minutes how to win direct 8A's awarded contracts in the fourth quarter. And I'm going to break it up into 3 sections. First is how you can find likely opportunities that could be going 8A direct award. That's a really kind of a challenging one. Or the reverse of that, how do you find friendly contracting officers? And what I mean by friendly are basically contracting officers who have awarded 8A sole source before. If they've done it before, they know the process and they're okay with the process. You'd be surprised how many contracting officers actually don't even know truly about the 8A program and the way they can use it to do acquisition. We just assume every contracting officer knows everything. And experience has taught me that they don't. The second thing I'm going to talk about is steps you can take to push an 8A direct award. And you can turn this around to say steps you can do to push anything to any set aside. And I've done a ton of training on how to push things to set aside, but I'll touch on some steps today. And then the third thing I'm going to talk about is one of the most important things if you want to sit there and win 8A direct award contracts is you need to be attractive to federal buyers to attract federal buyers. There's just too many buyers out there for you to knock on their doors. We're talking hundreds of thousands. And so you need to be able to be findable. And that's what I'm going to talk about here, how to be attracted to federal buyers. And that's the third thing we're going to cover down on. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonnell. I am the co-founder of GovCon in a Box, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner, And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we're going to have repeatable, predictable results. And that's what I teach you. That's what I try to teach you every single day that I come here. But you got to learn the process, get good at the process, and then follow that process over and over again. And you will have that predictable success that you want. Also, keep in mind, I'm doing training today, but there's over 113, 115 people live here today, not to mention all the people who registered to come. All of those people are potential new network people in your network. I don't think I said that quite the best way, but you know what I'm saying. A lot of people to grow your network. So make sure you're not just listening to me and paying attention to my slides, but looking to see who's in the training with you that you might be able to build your connections. Last two things. First off, thank you for those of you who registered for training. Like I said, over 200 people. I only put the training out, 48 hours ago, and we had 200 plus people register. That's a good day. That's the strength of our community. And so I want to thank you for doing that, because when you do, LinkedIn pushes it out further. Obviously, it's a little thank you you're doing to us, saying, hey, thanks for doing the training. I'll register, right? But the other thing is we want to grow our network out there. And so if you've registered, you can go in and ping me or put in the chat networking if you want a quick little video on how do you maximize your networking while you're here on my training. And I'll send you a quick little video on how to do that. Last thing is, if you're not subscribing to our newsletter, the Government Contracting Success Newsletter. It's the largest government contracting success newsletter out there. That was kind of loaded because I threw the word success in, but it's the largest GovCon newsletter out there. And all we do is put content that'll help you as you grow your business. Speaking of growing your business, I want to celebrate hugely GovCon in a Box's companies that are in the 100 Club, right? We call them the 100 Club companies. And these companies, and you can see their names right here: Graham, Blend, Simply Staff, Parabellum Strategic Group, Better Process Group, Auto Web Technologies, Design Results, Tiger Team Engineering, America's Workforce Solutions, Lighthouse Integrated Services. These companies are all have a visibility score of 100, meaning they have done everything in their SAM and DSBS profiles to make them fully visible to federal buyers. One of the biggest problems out there is that we're not fully visible. Let me just show you what I mean. If I come over here and I just say, this is GovCon in a Box, I can show you another time. But in here, I have a filter that says, show me visibility score 100. And when I search it, there's only 10 companies out of 358,000 companies currently in DSBS. I need you to get that up. I already have 21 companies we know we're going to add to the list next week that are coming in. But this is completely free. We just tell you what you need to do, give you little videos of how to do it. So celebrate these companies with me. Put 100 Club in the chat to just let those people know you're happy that they're succeeding. Okay, so let's get diving into the meat of today's training, starting by how do we find likely opportunities that might go direct award 8A, or how do we find friendly KOs, these contracting officers who will potentially award contracts to 8A businesses as a direct award. By the way, if you don't know this, we say CO or KO for contracting officer. The reason we say KO in the defense or DoD side is because CO stands for commanding officer. I want to spend a couple of minutes and go into USA Spending and FPDS and show you how to do this. And so these things here, if you take a quick snapshot, and you can come back later and do this, but these are the three filters I use for both of these two different tools that I'm going to show you. So let me go in and show you first USA Spending. And this is not a deep dive training of USA Spending. Today is just kind of quickly getting you in. So if you're not familiar, USA Spending and FPDS basically show contracts that have been awarded. I'm going to come in here and say search for awards. And remember, there was three filters that I used. So the first thing I said was right here, time period. Let me zoom in a teeny bit. The time period, I want it to be FY 2023. I actually like this other one where I say, show me new awards only. And award type here is contracts. That means I'm not looking at grants or these other things that aren't what we want. And the last thing is the set aside, type of set aside down here is 8A sole source. And so let me come up here and hit submit, and I'll zoom back. So you can see my three filters, FY 2023, all contracts, and 8A sole source. Let me zoom in for 1 second. And by the way, whoever runs USA Spending, please fix it and put it back the way it was. It used to be the best tool ever. Just making sure I'm looking at my filters there. Used to be the best filter ever, but the most important information is now at the bottom. So you have to drag yourself all the way down here to find companies. And so I'm going to come in here for 1 second. And if I zoom in, you can see, remember I said at the beginning of today's training, there's 5,528 direct award contracts to 8A. And these are new awards. These aren't recompetes. And so say a contract was awarded in 2022 and it's a 5-year contract, USA Spending will show it every year as like an option year. Here, it's just new stuff. I love these guys at 99 million. That's not really the stuff I look for. When I go in further, I'm going to sit there and look for things that are like 4 million. But right now, I'm just showing you the high level. I might go in a second. Here, you can see the spending that I was talking about. Right here is September 2023. So between August and September, it's the bulk of the entire direct award contracts. And the thing about the 8A program, the 8A direct award acquisition approach, this is my words, not the government's, but it is very streamlined. It is so easy for them to award contracts just going, just give it to an 8A. And I don't literally mean give it, right? There's qualifications that go into it. But it is a pretty darn easy process for them. Hence the reason at the end of the year, when they've got all this acquisition that's happening, that's when this stuff goes up. And so there's a lot of time. We haven't even got to August yet as of this recording. Today's the 29th of July. Okay, so the other thing I want to do when I'm looking at USA Spending and I'm seeing 5,528 sole source awards, where did they go? Which agencies are the best or the ones that are churning this out the most? And so if I come here and I look at awarding agencies, then I can hit that drop down and I can say, show me by awarding sub-agencies. And when I do this, now I'm looking and I'm seeing this in a whole different light. The Army, the Air Force, Navy, and then it gets into DHS, Customs and Border Protection. But you can see it drops off pretty fast, and that stuff is interesting to me. And so I want to look at it. And these opportunities, by the way, if I wanted to, and I want to look for expiring contracts, I could just go back instead of FY 2023, I could say go to 2020 and show me stuff that hasn't been awarded. But let me show you that just using a different tool. So fpds.gov. In here, I'm going to just hit enter. And so now I'm at a normal area, right? And I'm going to do a new search. I'm going to say right here, new search. And I'm going to start adding fields. Let me go back to my PowerPoint. So in FPDS, there's 3 fields I want to use today to just show you how I find contracts that went 8A sole source, and then also contracting officers that are friendly. So in FPDS, I can get people as well as contracts. So here, I'm going to filter it down a little bit more. I'm going to sit there and say, looking for the completion date to be the last quarter of 2024, and I'll set the date. Sole source for 8A. These are field types you'll see, and then the NAICS code. So let me go do this. So I'll just start with the NAICS code since I remember it. And I said I want the administrative support services. Let me add another one here. And I said I wanted set aside, and that's all the way at the bottom here. It's a field called type of set aside. So let me pause it there. And here I'm going to say, you see, I already did it. Let me just put that in. So 8A, it's actually 8A sole source. And so if you leave just 8A, you might get 8A set aside or competition. But when you say 8A sole source, now it's just that type of contract. And the last one I want to add in here was that period. And let me just remind myself, estimated completion date. So this is the estimated completion date of the contract. By the way, I'm just touching on the data, and I'm really good at this data, but I'm not nearly as good as like a friend of mine, Eileen Kent, has been in this industry a long time. She is a guru at the data, right? She can really dig into this and talk about it at a higher level. But the stuff I'm talking to you about really dives into the beginning part. So here's estimated completion date. I'm looking for contracts where it ends. It's expected to end, let's say, I'm going to go to September. Yeah, I'll say, so actually, let me just say October. Because that way, if I'm looking at October 2024 through December, then basically those contracts should be coming out. That's probably a little late on them, but let's just use it as an example. You can set your own dates. And so here I'm doing that and that. So now I've got October through December. Come on, what did I do wrong? something I did wrong. Live training, boy, it's tough. Let me try this again really quick. JC, come back. Honest, this time I tested the whole thing to make sure I speed it up. You're killing me. What am I doing wrong here? 541611. Set aside as 8A sole source. Estimated completion date. See right there is 23. It's always the data somewhere. So here I accidentally said 2023 instead of 2024. Please work. Good. Okay, so here I did it on purpose. I typed it really up to one NAICS code, administrative support services, and now I'm able to look in and see that there's different contracts, and I can sort it by action obligation. And when I do, I'm able to see, like, here's an $8 million contract. If I go in and cross your fingers, hold on, let me copy this. By the way, these are little tricks I do. I copy this guy here, the search criteria, because sometimes FPDS erases it and you got to do it all again. But I've got it copied, and now I'm going to hit view. And so here's an interesting thing. In here, I can see when the contract was done. I can go out and try to chase down the entire length of it. But I was looking for right here, HHS. It tells me this is an HHS and this is the contracting officer. And so here, if I just copied that and do a Google search, I'd probably be able to find this person pretty quickly. If I back up 1 second, let me try just some other random one here. Actually, I hope that's not HHS. Okay, here's another good one. So this is USDA, right? I can come in here and see Shannon is the contracting officer. And somebody can help me, maybe Dave Waltz, you can help me. But I just learned recently, and I'm sorry I can't remember who taught me this, that the approved by is the contracting officer. These other positions could be perhaps anybody, but the approved by is the contracting officer is what I understand. And so when you come in here and there's multiple names, you can latch certainly on the approved by and get some traction. But anyway, so here I can see the contract, I can look at it, how long it is, etc. These are two ways for me to look at that data and to be able to figure out who's likely, what opportunities are likely, and which contracting officers are friendly. So when I went into USA Spending and FPDS and I grabbed those that data result that you saw, if I had dug further into each one of those opportunities, I would begin to fill out or figure out which ones are good for me and my company. And you can do that same thing. Okay, so let's keep moving on here. Steps to push 8A direct award, or really anything, right? So the first thing I said here is, if you want to push an opportunity to an 8A direct award, one of the first things I'd recommend is to have an opportunity that you estimate either by seeing it as a recompete, or you're just estimation because you're good at this, but that it's less than 4 million. Because basically 8A set-asides are 4 million. There's some, variations out there, but the opportunities at 4 million, you know, you're in that sweet spot. People can talk about DOD having much larger thresholds, but almost all of those go to ANCs, the Alaskan Native Corporation. And I'm not here to teach corporations how to make money. I'm here to teach business owners how to make money. So find that sweet spot. The next thing I recommend is respond to RFIs and sources sought notices that you're solid at. And I think I'll talk about this on the next slide. But make sure you know what you're good at, and that's what you respond to on RFIs and sources sought. You can be a little more broad, especially in the end of the year of doing this. If you see opportunities, but it's not necessarily in your target agency, but just make sure you can write a really compelling RFI or sources sought. I mentioned one of my customers is about to get the notification of award today. They got that from writing an RFI sources sought and basically pushed out any of the competition, however that happened on the contractor side. But it went from RFI to award. There was no in-between RFP stage, and that can happen. Well, that can happen all the time with sources sought notices, but with 8A direct awards, that's kind of how it happens. We're all tracking it, and then we find out it went direct award. We're like, who to go to? Okay, so that's number 2. Respond to RFIs as sources sought notices. The third one is the SBA, the Small Business Administration, has 2 roles in there that are super helpful and advocates to a degree for you. One is called the Business Opportunity Specialist, and the other is called the Procurement Center Representative, PCR or BOSS is what I like to say. And so the PCR's job is to look across the board at agencies they're responsible for and make sure things that could go small do go small, right? Those are my words, summarizing their entire responsibility. But that's basically their job. but they also interact with all the contracting officers and the acquisition personnel in those agencies they're responsible for. And often they get contacted about, hey, do you know any 8A firms or HubZone firms or whatever that can do this work? And so you want to make sure you engage the PCR. And this is not a geographical thing like the business opportunity specialist or a PTAC. PCRs, you can look across the country and go, well, I'm trying to get into the Navy installation base down here. Let me find the PCR who's responsible for that. So reach out, build a relationship with them. And the second one is the business opportunity specialist. And this person helps all small businesses, government contractors, but primarily their responsibilities are around the 8A small business program, helping the 8A participants, small business companies, really have success as they go through their 9-year program. And two of the ways that they can help, and that you want to get in there and have a regular communication. And by the way, if you have if you're an 8A firm and you've got a business opportunity specialist that sucks, right? Put the responsibility on you, because they will not get better for your sake. They will just all of a sudden seem better when you reach out, just figure it out, how to sweet talk them, how to get on their radar, how to get advice from them, do it, have them see that you're doing the right things, but engage with them on a regular basis until you get to this point where they truly are helpful to you. They're just busy. The amount of work a business opportunity specialist has across the country is staggering. So they want to help, but they want to help companies that are doing the right thing. So anyways, two of the ways they can help is send a search letter to an agency you're trying to target. And I say this very broadly, but basically that's looking into an agency on your behalf saying, hey, we do this kind of work. Is there any kind of opportunities within here, right? That's me summarizing that search letter. Contrast that to the second one, which is a requirements letter. And this is one that you usually will inspire or encourage the business opportunity specialist, the boss, to send on your behalf about a specific opportunity. So if you see an opportunity you like in the forecast or in source of SOT or whatever, you reach out to that boss and say, can you send a requirement letter and basically ask them to set it aside, direct award to you, right? And I'm completely simplifying the process, but get to know your business opportunity specialist and talk to them about these two letters and how you can work together on it. The requirement letter could be sole source and or competitive, like, hey, push this aside to 8A. Okay, so I got a few minutes left and I want to talk about being attractive to federal buyers in order to attract those very same federal buyers, right? First thing is you need to be visible to be attractive. And there's many places the government buyer looks, but primarily it is your small business profile in SAM and DSBS. That is the primary place. And if you're invisible in there, then there's a good chance you're basically invisible to the entire federal buying pool. When you're visible, we say be attractive, right? Being attractive means you have a very clear expertise, a clear focused offer that a buyer can look at and say, oh, I like that. That's what I'm looking for, somebody with that kind of level of expertise. And this third bullet I talk about, look at the 100 clubs. If I come back here to visibility score, right? And I search on visibility score, imagine a federal buyer coming into a tool like ours where they can just say, show me tools or companies that have a very clear capability narrative, that if I went into them, I could see information like Blend. I can sit there and see their capability statement, their website. I can see the information they have. Some of these other companies, right? If I come down and I look at Graham, I'm able to look at the people that are in the company. I can find contract vehicles that they're on. This is things that increase the visibility score. It does not mean that you have to get on a contract vehicle to have a 100 score, but you do have to be visible. So go over to GovCon in a box and just, number 2, get your visibility score. You don't have to do anything to see it, except for just type your UEI or your company name. So I already talked about update SAM and DSBS. And the last thing is, a lot of these agencies have their own supplier portals. NASA does, Army does, the Navy Nav Air does. Different people around the federal government have their own. And it's important for you to find out if the agencies you're trying to target have these supplier portals. Recently, Cecilia, my sister, who's also with us in the chamber and GovCon in a box, she led this effort with 100 plus volunteers, thank you volunteers, who went out and reached out to all the small business specialists we could, or that we had names and numbers for, right? And asked them about supplier portals. And so we're updating that directory that we have, but you can find that out on govconchamber.com. And but these directories, you will be able to find where the buyers search inside. HHS, for example, has their own portal, and then they go to DSBS if they don't find what they're looking for. In that portal, a lot of you aren't in there, and you should be in there. Okay, so let me give you something to remember as you're heading out. The first thing is join the 100 Club. There's only 10 companies out of 358,000 that are 100% visible to the federal buyer, have a 100-point score. And you don't have to do anything. You could be brand new into the government world, and you can still get 100 points. You don't have to have federal contracts, things like that. I'll give you a quick example. If you're brand new, what we advise you to do is in DSBS, put some of your experience that comes from commercial, state and local, et cetera. There's ways for you to get to 100 points. But when you do that, you're communicating clearly to the federal buyer, here I am, I would like to sell to you. Let's have a conversation. And then the last thing is, go follow the guidance I gave you today, especially if you try to do direct awards at the end of the year. Go find the 8As that are, the contracting officers in the agencies you want to pursue that have done 8A sole sources before, and reach out to them. Try to get an intro meeting. Can I get my capability statement in front of you? How do I hear about opportunities so that I'm there to respond? Whatever it is, just make sure you're introducing yourself to the KOs. Don't expect them to just come to you. First, become visible so they can come to you, and then go knock on the doors that are the most important doors that perhaps can lead to contracts for you. Hey, if you want to work with us and you're doing at least $1 million, I need you to at least do $1 million or more, and you're interested in a BD Accelerator workshop we have that helps you with all these things we train, but we just accelerate your process in business development, then just put workshop in the chat, and I will send you a link to a form you can fill out an application. But just put workshop in the chat if you're doing over $1 million and you're interested in working with us. For everybody else, just remember, as you head through your day, as you head through the end of the fiscal year, government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process is showing up here every day at noon. I'll be here. You come here. We got training tomorrow. You can check it out in my LinkedIn profile. I will see you in the next training.